Live from the Atlanta International Raceway in Atlanta, Georgia. It's ABC's Championship Auto Racing featuring the 18th Annual Atlanta 500. And this is the way it stands right now after 274 laps. Richard Petty leads it, followed by David Pearson and Cale Yarborough. 1 lap down, Donnie Allison. 2 laps down, Buddy Baker. This ABC Sports Exclusive is brought to you by Goodyear, makers of the American Eagle Radial, a new kind of tire built especially for the American road. And by STP Oil Treatment and STP Gas Treatment for people who know how to take care of a car. Hello, everybody. Keith Jackson along with Jackie Stewart and Chris Economaki from just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, where the Atlanta 500 is sailing along. We thought for a while we might make it 500 miles without a yellow, but not so. We have had only one as they have continued to run at a record speed here on this racetrack, building it up now to better than 144 miles an hour, and we just have our second yellow as we have had a car spin coming down off turn number 1. These are long turns, very fast. You go full bore, and car 84 is the one who just lost it. That is Jody Ridley from Chatsworth, Georgia. He has come down off the racetrack. He is down on the grass and out of the way and may be able to get his equipment going again. But that has brought out the yellow flag. And so the standings with our second yellow in this race, Richard Petty, David Pearson, Cale Yarborough, and it will help Cale Yarborough under the yellow because he will be able to close in on the leader, Richard Petty. We'll be right back. The yellow light continues to burn here at the Atlanta International Raceway. The second yellow we've had. Richard Petty is the leader. He has made a pit stop earlier today before the start of the race. We talked with Richard Petty, Chris Economaki visiting with him regarding this particular race and this particular race track. Here is that conversation.
Well, Richard, the season's a lot better for you in 77 and 76. What do you attribute the difference?
Well, so far our luck's been a little bit better. It's not really been all that super, but we've been running a little bit better, and that always helps. But, you know, you got to have all the brakes to go your way. Daytona, we had some bad brakes down there, we thought, because we felt like we had a good chance to win the race. And Richmond, we run real good, and we had a little problems. But, you know, at Rockingham, everything fell into place. So, you know, we've been running good enough to win the races. The deal is our racing luck hasn't been that good.
What about the roughness of the Atlanta Raceway, Richard? They say it's rougher than it's ever been. How's that going to affect you in the late stages?
Well, you know, I can't say that it's that much rougher than it was the last time we run here, but over a period of years it has got rougher. It started off fairly rough, but when the speeds and stuff go up, then that makes the track rougher because we just notice the bumps that much more. I think that, you know, the track's like always, the groove will have to move up high, and, you know, you'll see the cars running right against the wall. So that is probably the smoothest place on the whole racetrack, because the further up you go, the smoother the track is.
That's your regular road, Richard.
Well, that just happens to be where the car, most of the time, if it does any handling or any sticking, then that's where I have to run. And, you know, I hope it just sticks that time this year.
Earlier comments of Richard Petty. We have just seen an unusual thing happen here at this racetrack. Cale Yarborough has no brakes. Watch his crew have to struggle and literally manually stop the car. But Richard Childress from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, led him around the fourth turn. Childress was his brakes, in a sense, Jackie.
Childress was leading him. He had communicated through the radio system. Childress is putting the brakes on for Cale Yarborough because, remember, Yarborough has no brakes. So Childress in the 30, look at the brakes locking up in Childress's car there. The rear brakes is completely locked up. Then Cale crews out from behind him, just clearing him. Childress's car hits the wall, in fact. So he did a great job for him.
All right, as we come back to our live picture, you can see they're changing left side tires, and they'll fuel him up. We have 280 laps in the book with David Pearson in first place. Cale, if he can hurry up and get out of there, will hold on to third place. He shouldn't have any trouble because the yellow is still on. A.J. Foyt is also well out of the race some long time ago. He left us. Janet Guthrie is out of the race. Johnny Rutherford, another major name from USAC Racing, went out a long time ago. But it has continued a contest between Pearson, Petty, and here we're getting ready for the restart as the yellow light is turned to green, and it is Pearson flashing over in the lead, but right behind him it is Petty. And Richard Petty has been sitting there all day, the pole sitter, now content to run very high in all the turns.
Richard Petty's famous for going high, as everyone knows. David Pearson, I think you'll find, will go higher on the racetrack as his tires begin to warm up. At the beginning, the tires grip very well, and he finds that his race car works very well low down in the racetrack. Now look how low he's on this racetrack here. It's a 24-degree banking here at this Atlanta racetrack, but as this car of his gets warmer, you'll find David Pearson also running high in the groove.
Of course, that's the smooth part of this particular racetrack. Question now is, what will Cale Yarborough be able to do? He has been in a muscle car all year. He had won 2 races. He won at Daytona and at Richmond. David Pearson was the winner in the first race at Riverside, California, and Petty winning at Rockingham last week. But now the man that Petty is chasing is David Pearson, and goodness knows how many times those 2 old pros had at it, huh? Both of them running very, very high. On this racetrack, the turns are a half mile in length. The straightaway is a quarter. Most of your mile-and-a-half tracks, it's different. It's a half mile straight and a quarter-mile turn. But here's Petty making his move, and he may very well get it as he chose to come down. Now, that's the way he set a new qualifying record. He went into the turn high and just came like a bullet down on the low side, and that's exactly how he got the lead right there from David Pearson.
Well, Richard Petty's a difficult man to beat, but if there's any one man in this race, and look at Pearson going underneath him there, he takes the lower line this time, but I think Richard may come out of that corner before him. He's in the right part of the racetrack to come out right, and he does come out just in front over this very bumpy racetrack. The Atlanta Raceway, probably this is the last time you're going to see it run in this way, at least this year, because they're going to resurface the whole racetrack next year. It's very bumpy. The high part of the racetrack, as Keith has said, is very smooth indeed, much smoother than the lower part.
So it's Petty and Pearson locking horns as we have now worked our way through 283 laps, 328 for the 500 miles here at the Atlanta International Raceway. It's been a very nice, comfortable day, and the infield is pretty much filled, and the grandstands were filled by 11 o'clock this morning. So we have a bumper crowd on hand, and they have seen a whale of an automobile race. The average speed now for the leaders is just over 143 miles an hour. And if Petty and Pearson get out there and run by themselves for pretty much the rest of the way, we might well have a new record, the old record sitting just over 139. We're running now a lap time for you as it clicks along. I would expect that you'll find the speed with these 2 as they're able to push each other using the trap. They'll probably be up into the middle 30-second range, which will put them just over 150 miles an hour. 35.6. That will figure out to 153.910 miles an hour. So you can see, as they stay down here, they are honking. Yes, indeedy. It's been a glorious race from the very beginning. It's been clean, it's been fast, and we are headed for what should be a sensational finish with Petty, Pearson, and Yarborough running in that order. The order remains the same. Petty leading, Pearson chasing, and they are pulling away right now from Cale Yarborough. Cale not running with the same amount of muscle he had previously. Allison is a lap down. Bobby Allison went out of the race a long time ago. Dave Marcus has now moved up into a position to be 2 laps down. Janet Guthrie broke the sex barrier at the Atlanta International Raceway today. Went out of the race, however, at lap 228. Here's Chrissy Katamaki with her.
Oh, Janet, I'm sorry to see you walking around. Mechanical trouble put you out?
Yeah, I had an engine problem, but before that, it was sure good while it lasted.
Well, I saw you pass David Pearson during the race. You must have thinking wonderful things when that happened.
Well, I'm glad to see it start happening. You know, we've been saying all along you don't do this kind of thing right away, and fortunately my sponsors, the Kelly Girl people, know that, and I think we're just going to keep getting better and better.
How was the racetrack, Janet?
Well, I know. You see most of the guys using a high line. I think Bobby Allison and I are the only 2 cars out there all day using that low line. The way my car was set up, it sure worked for me.
Okay, and in other developments, Clyde Scott's car caught fire during a refueling stop, and a mechanic was burned. Cale Yarborough was out of brakes. If he has to make a pit stop under the green with those circumstances, he's got real trouble. David Pearson, his car is not handling well. It's running well, but it's not handling well. So, Keith, you got an interesting story up there.
Right, Chris, and this is a handling racetrack, Jackie Stewart. If your car doesn't handle for you, you're not going to be competitive on this track.
No, one of the reasons for that is, of course, the bumpiness of that racetrack. And, of course, Janet Guthrie was saying that she was running low on the racetrack. That's the bumpiest part of the racetrack. So for David Pearson, who we're looking at right now in that car number 21, if he hasn't got a car that's handling well, he can't be too comfortable. He is dropping back on Richard Petty, and that car number 43 that's in our picture now. And of course, King Richard Petty, what a man he is. A man who's won more money than anyone else in this kind of motor racing. And of course, these two men have had such tremendous battles before. We did see them, of course, at the Daytona 500 one year, having an enormous accident in the very last corner of the last lap. So you never know what's going to happen with these two.
All right, we're cooking along now. 328 laps constitute the 500 miles, and we're setting in here now, closing in on 300. David Pearson, the old gray fox, of course, an interesting man, an engaging man, and a grandpappy. Earlier, we talked with David Pearson about what he expected here today and how things are going for him. Here's Chris's conversation with David.
Well, David, you got company. You got another grandfather in the race, A.J. Foyt. How do you feel about that?
Well, Chris, I'm glad to find out I'm not the only grandfather running, and I was happy to find out that, A.J. is a grandfather now. Maybe he's a bit how old he is.
You any better since you became a grandfather?
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm any better. I would just say that I'm a little bit smarter.
What about Atlanta Raceway, David? They're talking about how rough it is. You look at it that way?
Chris, it is kind of rough, and of course, it's been rough for the last, seemed like 10 years, but it's still the same old Atlanta, and I think that everyone enjoys coming to Atlanta and running on it, so there's not too much to kick about it. Of course, it is a little bit rough.
David, you've always made your move late in the race. With a race like today, with a rough racetrack, do you really save your automobile in the early stages by not going hard on a track like this?
No, here, Chris, because most of the time here, you spend most of your time in the corners. The corners is big and wide and short straightaways, and if your car is handling good, you can run good. And, of course, if it's not, you just out of the ballpark. You're way behind. And this is a demanding racetrack as far as the drivers driving, and it's like a physical, it takes a lot out of a driver to drive here because you are in the turns all the time. But like I say, if you got a car handling good, you can do well, but if you don't, you just out of the ballpark.
David, where do you feel it in your body, your shoulders, your arms on a rough track like this?
Well, all over, really, because you are bouncing. Even the straightaways is a little bit rough here. I would say during the race, just know how many times that you have to reach down and fasten your safety belt again. I mean, not fasten it, but tighten it, because you keep it bouncing, you do work loose, and so it's awful rough, but it's still a racetrack, and you come here to run, and that's what you do. And, no matter if you was in a cornfield, you would still come to run and do the best you could.
Part of the game, huh?
That's part of the game.
All right, some pre-race comments of David Pearson tell you again, A.J. Foyt left the race at lap 156 after struggling with his car for a while. Bobby Allison also went out of the race quite early. Janet Guthrie, whom you heard a moment ago, out at lap 228. We have now completed 295 laps. It is car number 43 in the lead. Car number 21 right there, David Pearson, the gentleman we were talking to, is in second place. And car number 11, Cale Yarborough, is a distant third. A lap down is Donnie Allison, 2 laps down. Buddy Baker, 2 laps down. David Marcus, 3 laps down. Darrell Waltrip, and 4 laps down, it is Richard Brooks. And Richard Brooks has struggled today as well because Richard has been in and out of the pits, but for some reason, and I suppose the reason would have to be considered just good old-fashioned down-home hard driving, he has stayed in a profitable posture.
The man we're looking at now, Cale Yarborough, is the man who won the NASCAR championship last year. Can you consider that he's got no brakes at all going round here right now? If something were to happen up front, he wouldn't be able to stop at all. It would be a case of having to spin the car to slow it down in any way. Going around this racetrack, these top racing drivers don't touch the brakes at all. For those looking in at this is a surprising thing when you consider that they're averaging this very high 153 miles an hour. So Cale Yarborough, a man who's won this race 4 times before, lying in 3rd place right now, looking towards a 5th win, but that's going to be difficult today.
Now that spin by Jody Ridley, enabling most of the people to duck into the pits to load up on fuel, they should be able to go the rest of the way without having to make another pit stop. So those brakes will not be a factor for Cale if he does have to come in. But right now, the man of the moment is King Richard as he's sailing off to a comfortable lead over David Pearson. Here's a man who's had an awful lot of success, won more money, more races than anybody else. He is not, however, the king of the super speedway. Richard Petty's philosophy is run your equipment at a moderate level, and then when you get down to the closing stages of it, stop on him. But right now, he's in a posture of being in the closing stages, and he is well out in front and pulling away from David Pearson.
And, of course, Richard Petty has only won this race once before. He won it in 1975. The car that he drives now, of course, is a very smooth motor car. Richard Petty sets his cars up very soft. That's to say the suspension is very soft. Many racing cars have very harsh suspension. I've driven Richard Petty's car, in fact, round this very speedway, and the car almost has a road feel about it. It's just so soft. It takes those bumps more comfortably than the car we're looking at right now, maybe, David Pearson. So therefore, the Richard Petty car, he set it up for those bumps, and I'm sure he's trying very hard to try and beat this man, David Pearson, today.
He's got a tough customer in front of him. He's trying to get by Donnie Allison, and Donnie Allison has been very fast this year in Hoss Ellington's car, a Chevrolet, and he's in there trying to hold off David Pearson and keep himself in a position, because he is right now running in the number 4 position, although he is a lap down to the leader, Richard Petty. And as we complete this lap with the leader, it'll be 304. We will have 24 laps to go around the mile-and-a-half track.
Richard Petty knowing exactly how many laps he's got to go, because he's in radio contact with his pit, as well as getting from time to time the odd pit board. But it's radio contact nowadays. He can talk to his crew chief and they can talk to him. So he knows exactly the gap between he and the second man, and you can see that second man, car number 21, the red and white car there of David Pearson, coming up behind one of the Allison brothers, and everyone's got their fans here. These people here, Keith, have been standing up all afternoon shouting for one person or another.
Now let's check the distance between first and second. There you can see the seconds ticking away. The leader has a 7.1-second lead over David Pearson. So Petty is running along. A true craftsman. Last night they had a dinner here in Atlanta for Tim Flock. In his time, he raced against Fireball and Curtis and all the great ones. But everybody who raced in those days were quick to respond that the real craftsman of the trade would have to be considered Mr. Tim Flock. And they honored him last night, and he's here today watching and a couple of other craftsmen do their thing in this NASCAR Grand National competition.
Richard Petty, a very smooth driver, tremendously experienced, of course, as you could see there by the record we just showed you. He's a man who stays close to the wall. Look how high he is on that racetrack. I don't believe there is anyone who goes higher than Richard Petty. Every racetrack in the NASCAR trail has some sort of Petty blue up there on the concrete wall or the guardrail. There's not a racetrack without it, and he just scrapes along there. And it's very difficult driving a big car like that to realize just how close you are to that top rail. I know from my point of view, when I drove his car, I felt as if I was glued to it, and by that time I was at least 6 feet away. Look how he took that corner there, going over a bump and just staying inches away from the guardrail.
Of course, despite all of the success that he has had in NASCAR Grand National Racing and the stocks, he has disdained offers to go other places and race other kinds of vehicles. I'm sure that a lot of people were relatively amused with the fact that Richard had had no luck in the International Race of Champions, for example. But he puts it aside by saying, that is not exactly my trade. That what I do is drive a Grand National stock car, and that's what I do best, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. And few have done it better.
Well, he's coming up very close to lap. Cale Yarborough now. This is a bad situation for Cale Yarborough. The two cars you see in your screen there, car number 43, Richard Petty, is getting very close to the orange and yellow car there of Cale Yarborough, the car number 11. And if he puts a lap on him at this late stage in the race, I'm afraid the game is out for Cale Yarborough to lose this, because unless there's a yellow, there's problems for him. And right now, even if that yellow was to come out, as Richard Petty passes him, then it really would be curtains. But he's driven a hard race. Consider he's got no brakes. He's lost a lot of time coming into the pits. And Petty's setting him up now maybe for a pass. Getting really close in the draft as they go high there. Turn number 1, 24-degree banking in this 1.522 mile oval here at Atlanta. Trying to draft him down the straightaway now. Car in the way so he can't get past him. He's boxed in, but he's trying to get up high. And look how high he is in that racetrack.
Slips through as we come around and he crosses the start-finish line. There will be 19 laps to go in the Atlanta 500. But the finishes of races, that's where the money, marbles, and chalk are to be found. And many times we have seen automobiles come hurtling around seemingly secure in that last lap, only to have disaster strike somebody and set off a chain reaction. It happened in 1976 in the Daytona 500. Bill Fleming and Jackie Stewart were there to recount that exhilarating moment. No one was hurt, but what a moment it was in automobile racing. Let's remember it.
Pearson now has the lead. Petty tries to go back on the inside as they come out of the fourth turn. They only have about 750 yards to go. Oh! It's a down straightaway. They did hit. Petty smashes into the wall. Will he come across the start-finish line? He's going to win the race. He's going to win it spinning, as he, I believe, will take the checkered flag. No, he did not make it. He is less than 100 yards from it. Here comes Pearson. Pearson is going to try to make it across the finish line. Petty has his car going. Pearson's going to win it. Oh, gosh, triangle. He wins the race.
What a finish for a motor race. I've never seen anything like that.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable, because here is Richard Petty, not more than maybe 150 feet from it.
He's got it started up, and he's crossed the finishing line as well.
He did it. He beat Benny Parsons across, so he gets second place.
But he's been pushed. There may be an infringement of the regulations there. He's been pushed, so it'll be interesting.
See what I mean? And we're coming down to the same sort of a thing, though there is a much greater distance between them right now than there was that day in 1976.
One yellow flag, however, Keith, would sort that, and if we had a yellow flag to come out right now, you would see these two very same people running into the final laps just as they did in those races at Daytona. Now we see a relationship between the second car and the first car. There is quite a gap there on this speedway, but it's really only a breath at this sort of speed, because remember, they're averaging over 153 miles an hour, and when something like that happens, you only need to breathe deeply, and that car behind you is going to catch you up.
Worth noting, too, that the car there right behind Richard Petty is Cale Yarborough. That means that Richard has lapped Cale, so he is a lap down to the leader and is still holding on to third place. Donnie Allison is 4, Buddy Baker 5, and David Marcus is number 6. Petty is out there in front of Cale Yarborough, meaning he also has Yarborough between him and David Pearson. But Pearson has not been able in the last 5 laps to run with Richard Petty, the Atlanta 500, with 14 laps to go. We'll have it in a moment. Richard Petty continues to lead the Atlanta 500 with David Pearson a relatively distant second now. He's about 8 seconds back. Cale Yarborough has been lapped by the leader. A comment I heard along the garage row yesterday was that if Petty, in fact, had hung it all together and could run as he had in his qualifying at better than 162 miles an hour, one old-timer said them other folks might be running 39 or 40 cars for second place. That's exactly the way it looks right now.
Well, when I spoke to the same sort of people down in the pits earlier on, I spoke to Lee Petty, Richard Petty's father, and I said, you must be pretty happy. He says, you're never happy until you've achieved something, and that's a funny remark to come from someone who has achieved so much in a family of motor racing, and the man right there has achieved so much. Richard Petty, what a smooth individual he is in a racing car. There can be very few people who are as smooth as he is.
We started 42 cars today, Jackie. Normally the starting field for NASCAR would be 40, but we had some FIA drivers, A.J. Ford, Johnny Rutherford. They made the field, so as a result, those who were in the top 20 for NASCAR were able to move in and make the starting grid. So we started with a total of 42. We have 22 of them now out of the race. So we have 20 cars on the track and running. It's a mile and a half in distance, and your leader is Richard Petty with David Pearson unable to run with him at this point. However, remember, a yellow flag, caution flag, and the second place, or everybody, is able to close in behind the leader. Now Petty crosses and finishes lap 320. That means you have 8 laps to go. Just 8.
Well, there's a lot of attrition in this race, of course, because the racetrack being as bumpy, being as difficult mechanically, and, you know, for the driver as well. Richard Petty must be tired right now, because this is a peculiar racetrack. There was some tests done last year, and it was found that at no part of the racetrack did the driver get less than half a G load on him, lateral movement on him. And in the high banking part, the 24-degree banking part, he was getting 2 Gs. You can imagine what that's doing to your shoulders and to your neck muscles.
We at ABC Sports like to think of ourselves as being expert in some areas of this business, and I'll tell you, one of the most difficult things you can ever hope to do is try to figure out exactly when an automobile race is going to end. nobody, I don't believe, anybody within the ranks of NASCAR could have suspected we would have had such a fast race today. So as a result, you're going to get a bonus today. You'll get to see the Daytona 125 from earlier. And right now they are still running on a record pace at better than 143 miles an hour, just under 144 as a matter of fact. The old record was 139. The leader is Petty, followed by David Pearson and Cale Yarborough. Now a little less than 4 laps to go, with Richard Petty continuing to run pretty much alone. David Pearson second, Cale Yarborough third. Winner is guaranteed just over $18,000. Contingency monies will elevate that sum, and a $10,000 boat goes with it. Well, I don't know the kind of schedule these people keep. I don't know what in the world anybody would use a boat.
Well, whether Richard Petty's going to use a boat or not, it doesn't matter. I'm sure he's going to have it in the garage, and somebody's going to take some pleasure out of it. But right now, his crew and he must be going through a great deal of pleasure. A lot of fans here at Atlanta follow Richard Petty. We were talking about the fans earlier, and one lady that must be looking in today with some pleasure, with their son lying in 4th position, Keith, is Bobby and Donnie Allison's mother, who broke a hip the other day. There you see, by the way, the relationship between the first and the second place in this race. David Pearson there in 2nd position, and Donnie Allison right ahead of him, whose mama is looking in, no doubt. Richard Petty way out in front with a comfortable lead, and there he is. But as we say, anything can happen. How many motor races I've led in these last few laps, Keith, and my knees have been knocking together, because every time I go round a corner or go down a straight line, I seem to feel a vibration, something go wrong with the motor car.
White flag coming out. White flag coming out next time around for Richard Petty. Here he comes. There's the white, 1 lap to go. And as he goes through turn 1, he's still up in that high groove and running well. David Pearson now he's half a racetrack behind him. So I'm going to say as Petty comes down off turn number 2, working his way down the back straight, unless he faints on his way to the clubhouse, he's got this one in hand. Richard Petty getting his 2nd win of 1977. Boom. There it is. 2nd flag for King Richard. Cale Yarborough will come around to take 3rd. In between them will be David Pearson. He'll get 2nd place. Donnie Allison should take, there's David Pearson for 2nd. Donnie Allison 4. Buddy Baker 5. David Marcus 6. And Darrell Waltrip 7. And Cuckoo Marlin will finish in the number 8 position. Good race for Cuckoo. Coming up, the Daytona 125. Some excitement from there. But right here, the winner, Richard Petty from Randleman, North Carolina. It's a habit he likes. Well, Frank, the NASCAR Grand National schedule for 1977 started in Riverside, California, where David Pearson was the winner. Then Cale Yarborough won at Daytona and Richmond. Richard Petty won at Rockingham, and he's put them back-to-back now, winning today the Atlanta 500 at a record speed of better than 144 miles an hour, breaking by almost 5 miles an hour the old record. They go next to the Gwen Staley 400 in North Wilkesboro on March 27, the Rebel 500 April 3rd from Darlington, South Carolina, to be seen on ABC's Wide World of Sports. The Carolinas and surrounding regions will not see the live telecast, however. And April 17, the Southeastern 500 in Bristol, Tennessee. Attendance is up, the prize money is up, but the faces are the same as we look down the list of those who placed high in this one. Petty, Pearson, Yarborough, Allison, and Baker. Those are names known throughout the Southland and through most of this country, Jackie Stewart, and they put on a show again today.
Well, as ever, the NASCAR racing for me is some of the closest racing in the world. Certainly one of the happiest men in the world today must be Richard Petty. All of the people doing well, certainly a great piece of motor racing. Very happy day for Richard Petty, but to motor racing it hasn't been a very happy week, because Carlos Paci, the great Brazilian driver, died in a light aircraft accident this week, Keith, in South America, in Brazil. And to his family, to his wife, I'm sure all of the motor racing fans around the world would offer their condolences at this very sad time.
Yes, indeed. Well, Richard Petty, of course, the story here in Atlanta, Georgia today, as he romped off to another victory. And he never seems to get tired of victory lane. Here's Chris with him.
Well, congratulations, you old Speed King. set a record, Richard, by almost 5 miles an hour, over 144 miles an hour in winning. And congratulations. How tough a day was it?
Well, it really wasn't that tough a day. We had to run hard all day because they had so many laps under green to begin with, and this is probably the quickest we've ever run down here. It has in a long, long time. I know that because right at last we were running some real good speeds. But, if I hadn't had for the cautions, then we would have, really had some good speeds. But the way it wound up, as long as you win the race, it doesn't matter how fast you run.
How's the old backside? The track was rough, everybody says. You asleep tonight?
Well, I tell you, when you win, it doesn't make no difference how rough it is. You don't never know.
I saw you. We were a little squirrely when you were drafting behind David for a while. Did you have any thrills during the day?
I had more than a couple, but we kept making adjustments on the car, and the last adjustment we made fixed it where that I could go good. I could run and catch them, but I couldn't pass them, and then right there at last we made adjustment on the car, and then I was able to, duck back by David and go on. So they got the car handling pretty good by the end of the race.
You thirsty, Richard?
Not that thirsty.
You're a milkman, aren't you?
Yes, sir. Not that kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you very much, Richard Petty.
That conversation recorded just at the conclusion of the race. The top rookie finisher today was Sam Summers. He's right now the leader in the race for rookie honors, and that carries 50 grand with it at the end of the racing season. But the order of finish you see there: Petty, Pearson, Cale Yarborough, Donnie Allison, a lap down, and Buddy Baker. For Richard Petty, he now has 182 wins. He has won 500-mile races 33 times. That is an all-time international racing record, and he's closing in on $2.6 million in career earnings.